worked in finance for most of my career now, and working in finance has taught me how to think about life, how to make decisions, how to measure what actually matters. And some of these lessons have completely changed how I live. So in this video, I'm going to be sharing the most important ones, and I hope that you learn a thing or two from it. Compound interest is not just about money. In finance, compound interest is well spoken about. You invest small amounts consistently, and over time it grows exponentially. And I believe this applies literally to everything in your life. Your skills compound, your relationships compound, your experiences compound, even your habits, both the good ones and the bad ones, they all compound. For example, when I started learning German, a few minutes a day felt completely pointless. Attending language classes after a long day of lectures felt like torture, and it was inconvenient. What is 15 minutes or 30 minutes actually going to do? Or how much can my brain actually retain after a stressful day? But months in, I could hold basic conversations, and now years later, the difference is clear. The same thing happened with travel. My first trip anywhere, I spent hours figuring out train systems. I got lost constantly. I overpaid for most things. But by my fourth, fifth trip, I could plan a weekend in few short minutes. I knew the hacks and I moved efficiently and confidently. Although the returns were not immediate, they compounded over time. Consistency beats intensity every single time. The small actions you repeat over time creates exponential results. So I stopped looking for big breakthroughs and started asking a different question. What can I do consistently that will compound? And if I'm being honest, none of it is glamorous. Like, if I were to zoom into the activities I do consistently, it might feel like there's so much going on, but it's compounding. Diversification protects you. In finance, we talk about diversification consistently. We don't invest everything in one stock, because if that stock crashes, you lose everything. You spread your risk across multiple areas. I have learned this the hard way. For years, my entire identity was wrapped up in being a finance professional, taking professional courses in finance, or looking for the next best course for my career. That was it. Work was everything. And when work got hard, and it does get hard, I was one bad quarter, one difficult manager, one layoff away from a full identity crisis. So I started diversifying my life. I picked up creative hobbies, not to monetize them, not to be good at them, just to have something that wasn't tied to performance reviews. So I picked up sewing. I don't know how to sew. I think the last time I actively learned how to sew was in secondary school in home economics class, when we were taught the different types of stitches. Yeah, I think that was in GSS2 or so. Now I purchased sewing templates and a sewing machine to create pieces. My first attempt was not wearable. I got something wrong, I guess, but my second attempt was good. I made linen shorts. It's not perfect, but I can only expect that by my fifth or seventh attempt, the output will be better than my first attempt that I couldn't wear. I also learned how to loom in the last quarter of 2025 by watching videos here on YouTube. And my first project is to make a beach cover, and so far so good. I'm looking forward to finishing that project. I traveled not just for content, but because it reminds me that there is a whole world outside of my 9 to 5. I invested in friendships that have nothing to do with my career. And over time, I realized that life got easier and work also got easier. Because when your entire self-worth is not tied to one thing, that one thing has far less power over you. If I have a bad day at work, I still had something else to focus on. A project failed, I still had trips planned. Colleague drama, I still have my creative outlets. In finance, we call this risk management. I call it building a life that can't be destroyed by one bad thing happening in one area. Your job, your relationship, your health, your hobbies, your friendships. Diversify them, because life is going to test each one of them, and you need the others to hold you up when one fails. Yeah. In finance, a sunk cost is money you've already spent that you cannot get back. And the rule here is very simple: to not let sunk costs influence future decisions. Just because you've already invested time, money, or energy into something does not mean you should keep investing. But the reality is, we all do this all the time. That relationship that's been over for months, but you already invested 2 years. The career path you chose at 22 that you hate at 28. That friendship that's training you, but you've been close since childhood. The sunk cost fallacy. I've already spent so much time here, I can't quit now. Yes, you can. The time you've already spent, that's gone. You're not getting it back. Whether you stay or leave. The only question that matters is, how does this serve my future? Or how does this serve your future? I had to learn this from my content creation journey. I started a YouTube channel, this YouTube channel by the way, years ago. I posted a few videos, some of them performed well, some of them did not. And sometimes I thought about how to make valuable content for people who followed my channel, for studying Germany content. I took a break and I told myself, there's no point trying again. Sunk cost thinking. What I considered failure from years ago had zero bearing on whether I could succeed now or not. It's a different content, it's a different strategy, it's a different time. But I let past failure, a sunk cost, stop me from trying. So your past investments, time, money, emotions, they are data. It's not chains. They tell you what has happened. They might inform you on what to do next, but they don't tell you explicitly what to do next, right? If something is not working, you're allowed to walk away, even if you've invested years, especially if you have invested years. Because every day you stay is another day you cannot get back. You're not a tree. Move. Finance taught me to cut your losses, move on, invest where there's actual return. It's not giving up, it's resource allocation. And your life is the most important resource that you have. Lesson number 4, liquidity is underrated. In finance, liquidity means you can access your resources when you need them. You might look wealthy on paper, but if everything is locked up in assets you can't access quickly, you're not actually free. It applies to how you structure your entire life. You can have a high salary, an impressive title, a beautiful apartment, but if you have zero flexibility, you're not actually free. So I started optimizing for flexibility. For you, flexibility could mean not buying a car so you can move cities without selling one, negotiating remote work days so you can work from anywhere with Wi-Fi, keeping your expenses low enough, having an emergency fund that allows you to survive 3 months of unemployment if needed. Not because you plan to quit, but because you can if you needed to. And that option, that flexibility, is what more than a bigger salary that traps you. Finance calls this maintaining liquidity. Let's call it keeping your options open, because life will present opportunities, and if you're too locked in financially, contractually, mentally, you cannot take them. The most valuable position isn't always the highest paying one. It's the one that gives you the most options. Lesson number 5, the best returns are not monetary. This one is ironic coming from someone in finance, but the things that give me the highest return on investment, they don't show up on a payslip. That cinema ticket to see a film I've been looking forward to, the return, 2 hours completely present, off my phone, experiencing something. That weekend trip to a nearby Schengen country for less than 100 euros. Return, memories I still think about years later. Confidence I carry everywhere. Quality time with loved ones. The return, moments that warm my heart anytime I replay the time spent together. In finance, we'll call this intangible assets, but they're the ones that actually make life worth living. Because the richest moments of my life cost almost nothing. The richest moments of your life will cost you almost nothing. It could be a conversation that changed your perspective, a sunset that, for example, I stopped to watch. I love watching the sunset. Flowers I stopped to watch or just smile at. A book that shifted how I think. A risk I took that didn't work out, but probably taught me something. Finance has taught me to measure returns, but life taught me that not everything worth having can be measured. So now I ask different questions. Not, can I afford this, but will I remember this? Not, is this productive, but does this make me feel alive? Or how does this make me feel? Not, what's the return, but what's the experience? Because life is meant to be experienced. You can have a perfect portfolio and an empty life. You can optimize every euro, every dollar, every pound, and miss every moment. You can be financially secure and be existentially broke. The best investment I ever made was learning that not everything is an investment. Some things are just life, and life is the point. And to my last lesson, you can't avoid risk. You can only choose which risks to take. In finance, risk and reward are directly correlated. You want higher returns, then you have to accept higher risks. So you want zero risk, then accept lower returns. There's no hack around this. The same is true for life. If you want the relationship, you risk a heartbreak. You want the career change, you risk failure. You want to create something, you risk embarrassment. You want to travel alone, you risk discomfort. Every single thing worth having requires risking something. And I realized that whenever I was so focused on avoiding risk that I was avoiding life. I didn't restart this channel for a while because I was afraid it would fail because of the algorithm. Will people be interested in the content shift? But I'll never know if I don't at least attempt it. I didn't travel alone for a long time because I was afraid of looking lonely. I didn't try new things because I was afraid of being bad at them. And what did that caution get me? Safety, comfort, and absolutely nothing worth remembering. The riskiest position of all is doing nothing. Every day you don't take the risk is a day you definitely don't get the reward. That's a guaranteed loss. At least if you take the risk, you have a chance. Assess risk, manage the risk, but don't avoid it growth lives in because growth lives on the other side of risk. And honestly, the things I regret most are not the risk I took that did not work out. They are the risk I didn't take because I was too afraid. Yeah. So take the risk, not recklessly, of course, intentionally, because the life you actually want is on the other side of uncertainty. Right, so those are the 6 lessons finance taught me about life. Working in finance did not just teach me about money, it gave me frameworks for thinking about life. So if you're in your 20s or your 30s or even your 40s trying to figure out how to live, borrow from finance, compound your efforts, diversify your meaning, cut your losses, stay liquid, value experiences, and take calculated risks. But also remember, you're not a portfolio to be optimized. You're a human being trying to build a life worth living. Thank you so much for watching. I'd love to know what your work has taught you about life. I'll see you in my next video. Cheers!